My Lords, we've had a very valuable debate. I'm grateful to all of the noble lords who've spoken in it, and if I don't thank them all individually, I hope that they'll forgive me for that, given the length of the debate so far. It's unusual at the end of such a long debate to be able to summarise the arguments made in one or two sentences. But I can, because everybody was effectively saying the same thing, and that is that we want to see change, and the majority of us want to see legislative change. But having said that I'm not going to refer to any particular individuals, there are two speeches I just want to refer to briefly because I thought they were important. The first was the winding up speech for the opposition Labour Party front bench by the noble Lord Tunnicliffe, whose words I think he spoke very briefly, but I thought his words were very pregnant and important for as we approach report stage on this bill. The second, which I'll deal with at some slightly greater length, were the remarks made by the noble Baroness Lady Bowles of Berkhamsted, who acutely put her finger on a key issue that has to be addressed if we're to achieve the legislative change that we want to see, and that is the definition that we choose. As I said, there must be a way, when I spoke earlier, I said there must be a way satisfactorily of distinguishing between domestic and foreign. And it's clear that we want to do this in a way that is, I won't use the term non-discriminatory because that has legal implications, but we want to do it in a way that is fair and is seen to be fair by everybody who might be affected. And a couple of suggestions at least have been made, and they both have merits, and it is something that we need to return to as we approach report stage on the bill, to make sure that we're comfortable with all of that. But I thought she put her finger very acutely on that. Normally at this stage in a speech of reply, I would turn to a lengthy and careful analysis of the remarks made by my noble friend the Minister, but she has been subject to a lengthy and careful analysis by practically everybody else so far in the course of her winding up speech. So perhaps I will spare her that and congratulate her on that and thank her for taking the questions and points that were put to her with such good grace. I will, however, refer to 2 points. The first is the security services. Frankly, I've never come across a case where the police or the security services have ever given up a right that they already have to scrutiny, and there'll always be some excuse as to why it is necessary. I'm afraid I find it unconvincing, and the reasons I find it unconvincing are not simply per se on the grounds that it's the security services, but because of the arguments made here that it is astonishing that there should be a special list of people in scope of suspicion of money laundering and terrorism who happen to be the list in section 14, when all of us could supply, a 5-year-old could supply, a list of people much more likely to be in scope who are not being subject to the same scrutiny at all. The second point I want to make, and here I may be in the wrong, but I don't think I am, and I suspect it might be that my noble friend hasn't quite got it right, but I'm happy to be corrected, and that is, what is it that our international obligations are to FATFA, insofar as we have obligations to them in a legal sense, given that they're not a legal body. I referred very carefully and read out from this little iPad, I read out the current version of Recommendation 12. It quite clearly says foreign. It places no obligation on the parties to the agreement to do anything about domestic PEPs. Now, clearly, and here this is where there may be a degree of confusion, in deciding who is a foreign PEP, you have to make a decision, if you like, that they're not a domestic PEP. And so there is a sift required, naturally, to get to the question of get to the point of identifying that this is a foreign PEP. But I suspect too much has been built on that, and there's some suggestion that that sift, are they foreign or are they domestic, involves some obligation to scrutinise them. But it simply isn't there. So I referred in the course of my noble friend's speech to the interpretative notes, and there is an interpretative note to Recommendation 12, but it deals entirely with life assurance policies. My noble friend also, I think I heard her say, that Recommendation 22 was relevant. That may have been a mishearing on my part, but when I look at 22, it deals almost entirely with casinos, real estate managers, and trusts. I don't know why they're all in the same category, but there we are, all in the same recommendation. So there may be something I've missed, and that is why I say I may be wrong, but I think we can resolve this if my noble friend would write to those noble lords who've taken account of this, specifically with the version of the FATFA recommendations she is using, with the bits she's relying on, because it's quite a long document when you add all the interpretive stuff, the bits she's relying on flagged up in yellow marker and identified in a covering letter, because otherwise it simply cannot see that it's there. The simple message, I think, from this debate to my noble friend is that we do believe that there has to be a change in the law. And I do think that it is likely, and it's been said on all sides of the House, of the committee, and that this is likely to return when we consider this bill on report. And the strength of feeling, I think, in committee is, I suspect, not unreflective of the strength of feeling across the House as a whole. It would be, as at least one noble lord said, greatly to everybody's advantage, with the legal and other resources that the government has at its disposal, if it used the time before then to come forward with an amendment that included meaningful legislative change and that was drafted in a way that was legally robust and acceptable to all concerned, including to my noble friend and her colleagues. With that, I beg leave to withdraw my amendment.
Is it your Lordship's pleasure that this amendment be withdrawn? Amendment by leave withdrawn. My Lords, the committee stands adjourned.